Superman Kryptonite Nevermore. It's the latest DC Finest from DC Comics. 576 pages. Dennis O'Neil, Led Dorfman, and also Curt Swan. And the book is from 1970-71. Obviously, that was the stories. It's just basic, just come out. And you can see there, 1970-71. Lots of great stories from Action Comics 393 to 406, as well as Superman 233 to 238 and 240 to 246. Sometimes it's a bit odd with the Action Comics as well as Superman. Sometimes the stories seem to be a bit disconnected. So when you're reading through it, you think, oh, it's a bit strange because they're going in order of that, but not particularly story order. Still, this one, Superman there, this guy turns up all the way through. I am not human. I care nothing for your world, he says there. And you can see there all the contents there. And it starts all the way from October 1970 all the way through to 1971, December 1971. Just lots of great stories, 576 pages. And I loved them. I remember reading quite a few of these when they came out. I didn't keep many of them. It was one of those ones that Action Comics, and Superman comics, I would generally swap with my mates. There was like Justice League of America, loads of other ones, and Action Comics was one I still enjoyed reading. But these stories are just great now, read in order, which is always one thing that I think these bring more than anything. Quite often you read stories slightly disconnected, so you finally work out the general gist of the storyline. And you've got there Superman and Super Houdini, as it says there. There you've got there Superman again. Obviously, I thought suddenly it was Supergirl there, but it wasn't. And then on to Superman, obviously doing some very special super deeds as he usually did. He's obviously dragging this and that. However, throughout this book, you think from here, the cover sort of suggests that, oh, wow, he suddenly no longer has to worry about kryptonite. And I think, thank because kryptonite stories always bugged me, bit like Lois Lane, always trying to discover his identity. So I just felt that those sort of stories, I really wish they just got rid of. However, they did give a weakness to Superman, quite a few actually. Quite often what happened was certain powers suddenly disappeared in sort of problematic moments. It was, he suddenly felt weakness, in general sort of weakness, he's still flying around or using his power, obviously supervision or whatever. Blasting people. And now a girl mightier than Superman. So there's quite a few of those sort of stories throughout here where Superman suddenly encounters someone slightly more powerful than him. Generally it turns out to be, of course, there's a reason. Probably obviously comes from Krypton, whatever, Kandar, and those sort of things. And then you've got obviously Superman looking slightly, my powers are gone, he says at that point. And again, not sort of thing you want from Superman. Could be fatal. And there are times where he sort of starts feeling the bullet sort of hitting him, which I guess probably in the early comics, maybe he did. I don't think they actually ever said that, but I imagine he got more and more powerful. Though I guess that was the reason ultimately they had to do something with like kryptonite. You have to give a person a weakness, like Green Lantern, of course, with yellow and all that sort of wood. Obviously, for the original Green Lantern, there you got obviously an imaginary story. So, of course, when I first read it, I thought, oh, this is strange because we've just come across the story and you think, what's happened to poor old Superman at this point? And of course, he's going around, he's certainly not in the best of states. He's trying to bring back his powers. And there he is, obviously, been rushing through. He's still obviously got some powers. He can pretty whiz through fairly quickly through there. He's obviously still got his heat vision schooled in the puddles of heavy mist. However, that storyline we got here, that's quite a nice little bit, I think. Quite a nice little. Superman's powers increased. He could fly over worlds, ultra light speeds, move the earth itself, shrug off, but green kryptonite, as well as gold kryptonite, of course, black kryptonite, whatever kryptonite, banana kryptonite. I'm certain they came out with loads of different kryptonites. And you, of course, had all the various other Superman characters, Rose and Dawn as well. A new feature appearing, Lois Lane. Good old bit of advertising for other products. Also, The Untold Tales of the Fortress. Not too many stories of that, but still, there he is, Superman again. But, as I said, he does have a bit of a weakness through this. And the reason is that character that I showed right at the start. It just sort of looks like Superman, slowly but surely becomes Superman. And of course, as he gets stronger, Superman starts to get slightly weaker. And you can feel that obviously he's struggling at times with various things. And there he is, as he's whizzing through, of course, has a bit of a problem all the way through. And also, you've got this character as well. Of course, there's music involved. Sorry, I should say magic involved. Maybe Superman's weakness is also music, but in this, of course, magic. And you've got this character who also ends up having more powers than Superman because, of course, he takes away, loses up, actually burned in pain. I think that's a storyline they could have actually done a bit more, actually. So these sort of things where suddenly he ends up getting burned or whatever, all sort of things that general people obviously experience. And then he's Spawn of the Unknown. There's a whole range of different stories in here, but there is a common theme of like losing his powers and also another dimension. Oh, that was a good one. Love that one. That was a real nice one with sort of historical characters. Maybe there was a reason, maybe there was a special anniversary date or something at that point. And then you got My Son, is he man or beast? Okay, I guess that's an imaginary story as well. Unless Menace at 1000 degrees. Again, something probably when Superman's losing all his powers, probably not so useful when he does, like I say, he even gets this obviously. But sometimes with these things where he sort of like seems like he's losing his powers, he often just pretending to lose his powers and you think he's just doing it to build up the confidence of someone or whatever, sort of helping a certain situation, though sometimes making it worse, which, and there you got there Supergirl, of course. I think the costume slightly changed at that point. That was that would be a nice DC Finest. I'm surprised they haven't brought that out. I've got quite a few omnibus editions with Supergirl. It would be nice to see the sort of later 1970s period, 1971, that sort of Supergirl's coming out as well. Those ones, I'm not certain they've been collected. Don't even think there was a showcase. Maybe DC Archives. I don't know. But again, there he is, the character again with this sort of sand character. What? Just call him sand character. Whatever he's made of. And oh, he doesn't look too good, does he? And Superman's got problems again. And the duel that destroyed the Earth. I guess that would happen. There's always, again, Superman shows versus certain things. And, of course, it turns out to be a twist in the story. And again, you can see Superman there. He's obviously meeting. Again, that's after they've done the Kryptonite bit. They had to come out with something like this. Though, you got here, he's obviously getting some mind treatment there. Hero worship, twist his mind, super strength. Obviously, that's another one. I feel incredible, surge of energy, etc., etc. And you've got these creatures as well. That's a good story as well. There's actually all of these have been very enjoyable stories. I like them all. Been reading quite. I mean, there's a few ones I think okay, but generally very good. Also, of course, at this point he suddenly became a TV reporter to give us sort of like a slight change there. Obviously, in front of the camera, but there's certain times, of course, when he's not in front of the camera, means he can whiz off and do in 3 minutes or whatever, sorting out various problems around the world. There's a volcano exploding, so he quickly whips them, moves everyone away, whatever, saves the day in those sort of time, and he has to get back in front of the camera before everyone realises that what Clark Kent maybe is Superman. And then you've got that. Though I'm surprised that surely on camera, when he's on camera looking remarkably like Superman, you must imagine that all the people watching him on TV must have been thinking, doesn't he look a bit like Superman? Because, of course, that would have been massive exposure compared with when he was a reporter. Of course, he was a reporter. He would go around, might meet an occasional person, maybe, you know, you'd have an adventure. People might put two and two together. But after a while, you think, what people watching Superman, Clark Kent on TV all the time would start thinking, maybe that's not possible. Maybe that just doesn't happen. And then, of course, this guy, he's not Edge, not particularly pleasant. Oh, this one's the spectre of Superman. What? Impossible. Ghosts of the spirits of the dead. But I'm Superman. I'm alive. course, there's a twist as usual. There always is in these stories. But I've enjoyed them all. I mean, there's really great. Again, I love this back bit. I think great putting the covers. Many ways, I wish they'd actually make them small covers so you could see all the covers. That would be nice. Obviously, that's what they do in the omnibus edition, but I think they could do it. I don't think there's any real reason why you couldn't have small covers. I could certainly see them. But it's got the year, which is always good, and also puts it there as well, which is nice. And at the moment, it's still, I think, consistent design. Who knows in 20 or 30 years' time? Let's hope they're going that long as well. You've got here Superman, you've got the covers, which is great. I love that they include the covers. Now, I don't know if they include the covers every time, depending, of course, whether there was something. I think for these ones, the Action Comics ones and Superman one, they are all included. But sometimes, of course, they do skip ones if they've got a slightly different cover. And they also include this as well, which is a really nice one. But it's got no story, it seems, at this point here, because I assume they were reprints. You've got here 100 super spectacular pages, and also the back cover as well, which is absolutely great. Kid Eternity as well. And then you've got the many faces as well. You can see, obviously, Superman has changed over the years. Well, saying that, not particularly, I guess they're not showing over the years, they're just showing his various emotions. And he does get a bit impatient at times as well. That was something slightly unusual here. I never really see of Superman sort of being impatient. You think he'd sort of sit, but instead of waiting for a lift, he whizzes up through, obviously, the building, super speed, which I guess he could do. He could do any time. He could turn up at work, couldn't he? Just suddenly pop out the toilet kind of thing, sort of fly in. But I guess people might say, why are you never going up the other lift or something? Still, this is great. 576 pages of some really, really decent stories. Absolutely loved it. Really great to see these finally in one big collection. As I said, read them over the years, on and off, here and there. Completely out of order, so it's nice to actually read them in order, and that's what I love about the epic collections from Marvel, as well as omnibuses, of course, and DC Finest. It's just that they're in order, and you can see the general progression of what happens and how the various things sort of work out, obviously, at the end. I'm not going to spoil that bit, but it's good. Very, very good. Can't see there's any sort of scenes where that he does that, but there, of course, is the famous one where he munches the bit of kryptonite, which I think is a bad idea. Maybe because you do it and then a couple of weeks later suddenly reverses. That would be a bit tricky, wouldn't it? Maybe. Are you going to pick this up? I think it's a great one. Yet another brilliant volume from DC Finest. I think also there's some good ones coming fairly soon. I think there's loads. The Justice Society of America one is definitely up there. Metamorpho is definitely up on my must-buy list. And also, of course, others. Haven't seen any new lists of anything coming out. I suppose we shouldn't be impatient either, because it's, it would be. I guess we will see some more, obviously, coming out probably September, October time, maybe. Find out some more ones, maybe into the new year, 2026. So hopefully some really great ones. Sort of ones you'd love to see. Always fascinating to know. There's certain ones I would love to see. I'd love to see a Teen Titans one. I've got Teen Titans. Love to see Atom. Atom would be a great set. DC Finest, Atom. I love the Atom character. Also, of course, there's the Hawkman one, which I'm looking forward to. Spectre, which is great. But there's also lots of ones like Magic ones. They could bring out a DC Magic book because they've got a horror one. They bring that science fiction one, that Guerrilla World one, which looks great. But they could bring out, I guess, a sort of magic one. That would be with Zatanna, maybe Zatara, a few other characters. There's quite a few, obviously. Enchantress comes to mind. There's probably a couple others. And obviously Westerns would be nice. Backlash would be a good one. Obviously you've got Jonah Hex. There's probably loads of other ones they could do. Obviously Adam Strange be good. Obviously got the Strange Adventures ones, of course, Guerrilla World one. Yeah, loads and loads. There's so many possible ones. Obviously comedy ones would be great. A DC comedy one. Now some of those unfortunately are licensed, so I suspect the ones, Fox and Crow probably won't be coming out. Unless that license is, maybe they have, I don't know. Maybe the Bob Hope ones. Not certain actually. Maybe there's also lots of Buzzy, I think, and a few other ones. There must be quite a few sort of comedy teen ones that they could bring out that are not complicated by any sort of possible license issues. Sugar and Spike, of course, comes to mind. Those Red Tornado ones, Scribbly, loads of great books that potentially could come out in this series. So please put in the comments below which ones you'd love to see, and will you be picking this one up, the Superman one. So I've got the other Superman one, and that's, of course, there's another one coming out. I think it's got the first appearance of Lex Luthor, but of course they always have to bring this one out. This is just inevitable. Every series they always bring out, there's always, of course, the first superhero Superman one. But that's obviously part of the series, and I will be picking up many, many others. I have got an omnibus or two, so those ones maybe I might skip, but probably get them as well, just to complete the series. Oh, hope you found this of interest. Bye.